Welcome to the Strategic Insights Podcast. I'm your moderator, Andrew Makl. Today we'll be discussing QMS Solutions, a competitive advantage in business. Today I've been lucky enough to be sitting across the table with Dave Rendel. Dave, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well.
Dave, I think this is the second time we talked. I'm excited because this is like the evolution as we see QMS taking a more pertinent role in manufacturing and industry in general. Just for the listeners, can you give a little introduction of yourself and your job role?
Yeah. I work at Strategic Information Group, and my job role is a senior solutions architect. And essentially, what that really means is that I help the customer or prospect. I help them find what quality management system is going to be right for them. Because not there's no one size fits all when it comes to quality management systems. And so instead of just trying to position a single product with a customer and say this is what's going to work for you, I like to really get in there with them and really understand their business and figure out, what do they really need? What's really important to them? What challenges are they facing? And then try and match that with the right software that's going to help them. And then work through those processes and find out how we're going to manage those processes within the software to really ensure that we're getting all the gains that they want and where they're looking for them.
I love how you highlighted the fact that, there's so many different opportunities when it comes to quality management solutions out there.
Yeah.
And I think a competitive advantage that Strategic offers versus a lot of the different players in the space, especially partners in the spaces that we, of course, participate in, is the fact that we are actually an enterprise provider, right? So we don't
Mhm.
have a one size fit all model where we're shoehorning someone into one product. We have multiple solutions out there, so we know that we're, just like you noted, we're aligning the customer with the best possible opportunity, right? We're not aligning one product and making the customer fit into said product. Because of that, I want to ask the one glaring question: when a client comes to you with quality management questions or a possibility of a solution they might need, what's the first thing you're listening for?
You know, the first thing you really listen for is pain, right? What pain are they feeling today? There's always going to be some kind of low-hanging fruit of things that we can fix and we can fix quickly. And then so when you find that pain, you kind of look for other pain as well and see how severe is that pain, right? So if you have one severe pain and then you have all these other little pains that aren't really making that big of a difference, you might be able to give them a point solution, something that can say, hey, this is going to fix that one problem, and that's really all you need. You can go on your way and you can be great. And then down the road, when you have other pains, we can augment that. We can ensure that we have other things that integrate into that and make it all even more powerful. So that's really the first thing I listen for is pain. And I also want to understand, like, what is their goals as a business? Is your goal to just provide a good um place for your employees to work? Is your goal to grow your business? Is your goal to grow it organically, to get new customers, to stand up a new plant? What are the real goals? And that can really make a difference as to what kind of investment that they should make in quality systems.
I think that's an overlooked piece of business. A lot of times we talk about pain or the challenges organizations go through. It's in many times I don't hear when we're going through the debrief or the RFI or the questions, well, what is your long term goal? Like, what is your strategy over the next 18 months? Just like you
Mhm.
noted, that point solution might actually tick the box, but depending on what they're doing in 2026 or 2027, they might have to completely go a different direction depending on what they already have on the horizon. And I'm not saying not all departments don't talk to each other. That never
Yeah.
happens, right? Never. But in the rare case when you ask that question, they're like, "Oh no, we're building a new plant in 26," or we're and all of a sudden it
Yeah.
dovetails into a different discussion because it's the overall need of the organization, not just the one. So I love the approach, but when we talk about that, when you talk about looking for the future, we talk about different buzzwords in industry like best of breed. I hate that word. How do you define that solution, best of breed, and why is it important in today's market?
I really don't define best of breed. And the reason I don't define that is because it's really what's best for that individual customer. It's best for the goals. We had we had somebody that we worked with who worked with one specific customer, and that was their whole business over the last 80 years. Is they just did it with one specific customer, and that was working for them, and that was great. And if I had prescribed them a quality management system to work with that one specific customer, I would have not been doing my due diligence because I found out their goal was to actually diversify and expand to other customers. This is in the automotive world, and customers are very finicky. When I say customer, I mean the OEMs, your Ford, GM, Honda,
Mhm.
etc. And so I found that their goal was to get three or four of those OEMs so that in case one of them had issues or one of them was unable to import cars or whatever the case was, they would still have other business to work on. So that actually changed significantly what I said they should do and what I recommended to them because they needed something that was going to be a lot more flexible versus something that was just going to work in lockstep with what their current customer was doing. And so, their processes are going to change down the road. Everything's going to change down the road. And that really had a big impact and it's been working really well for them.
So it sounds like instead of saying there's a best of breed solution, it's more of aligning their needs set with with of course the criteria and a solution set for. I think I heard you say it on a previous podcast, making an educated buying decision.
Yeah.
So for you, it's really educating the customer and giving them the options they have in front of them, not necessarily you know sitting back and saying the B of B that we don't like to get
Yeah.
into.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when I worked for a company where I only sold one quality solution, of course I used that word, right? Of course I did. Because I was trying to explain to them that this is the best quality solution out there and this is why it's the best quality solution out there. And it wasn't until I was able to work with several different quality solutions that I found out, you know what? I was wrong. I wasn't always giving them the best quality solution out there because I wasn't taking into consideration what their goals were, where they wanted to go, and the failings of the quality system that I was representing. And so, by being able to do this, I just feel a lot better about the value that I'm providing to our customers because I'm able to have say, you know what, this is really what's best for you, and let me show you why, and let me show you how it's going to work with your processes and how it's going to improve things for the future.
you know, it's hard for people to sit back and think of that, but when you start thinking about all the things that quality ties to, whether it be profitability, to, customer success, product success, there's not a part of the business doesn't touch because everything funnels to, of course, to finance at the end.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it is the one area in business that people don't realize that upstream and downstream, it's gonna make massive impacts on how you do business. In,
Yeah.
in that respect, how do you see QMS as a differentiator today for companies?
Yeah. So, what's the refrain we always hear? Everybody's selling, right?
Yeah.
We always hear everybody is in sales in a company. Well, I like to say everybody's in quality because it really impacts everybody. And so, what I like to see is, I mentioned everybody's selling and everybody's in quality. Well, quality can be a sales tool. Whether you are working with B2C or B2B, it doesn't really matter. Customer satisfaction is king, and a quality system is going to massively improve customer satisfaction. It's going to do things like it's going to improve the amount of recalls you have. It's going to improve your delivery on time. It's going to make sure that product is always on the shelf when people want it. It's going to make sure that product always gets delivered to the business that needs it when they need it, right? And so using quality as a sales tool to improve customer satisfaction, retain your current customers, and then when you get new customers, especially in the B2B space, they're going to audit you. They're going to go through and they're going to check every box along the way. They're going to do RFIs and RFPs, and they're going to be asking you all these questions about how you manage certain things. Well, if you have the right software system for quality, one of the things you can do is you can hand them a sheet and say, all those ISO registrations I have on the wall. Here is how everything I have, or here's every clause in those registrations, and here's the way I manage all of it. And that can be provided to you by the software company. I mean, that's a sales tool right there. Include that in your RFI package. Show them that you're serious about the registrations and you're serious about quality because that's going to make a big difference. As a customer, if I'm Boeing and I'm picking a supplier and somebody says, here's how much I think about quality, here's how much I think about risk, here's how seriously I take it, and everything is apples to apples with another company, I'm picking that company. 10 times out of 10, I'm picking that company. And so that, and because I know that my customer satisfaction is going to be high. And if it's not, they're going to figure out how to fix that. And they're used to doing that and they have experience doing that. And they're not working off of Microsoft Excel, which No offense to Microsoft Excel, it's an amazing program that runs billion-dollar companies in some at sometimes, but having a system that can actually understand what you're doing and why you're doing it, and help to ensure that you follow up on that. That's going to generally improve customer satisfaction along the way.
You say all things being equal, and I'll be honest, if you're an organization looking for suppliers and you're struggling with quality and you're having recalls, and there's a cost, there's a large cost
Mhm.
to recalls. It might not even be even. And if you're within a certain percentage and you're that dedicated to quality, you're going to be winning business off that alone because they don't have to assume all that risk and cost that they're doing on their average percentage of recall, is going to go away, right? So there's a big benefit there that I think people overlook, and that's also part of building and maintaining relationships. I mean,
Yeah.
when we discussed it earlier, why is quality important for building and maintaining relationships?
You know, think about the guy that's taking the product in off the dock, right? And the guy that's taking off the product off the dock. If I got a supplier where I have to inspect one out of every five of the ones that they sent of the products that they send to make sure that it's in spec, and I got another supplier where I know that they're checking everything before it goes off the line, it's going to be good off the line, and it's going to come in, and I don't have to inspect any of it. That's going to create a good relationship, right? That's going to help build a good relationship with that supplier because I'm saving money, right? I'm saving money. And so I'm going to like that supplier more. And so, from a supplier's perspective, you're really, again, you're improving that customer satisfaction, like we talked about before. But if you want to, you know that that supplier is going to be doing other things that you need. You know that if you ask that supplier to respond to you in a certain way, you ask that supplier to fill out something, you ask that supplier to do X, Y, and Z, they're going to do it. And so, by ensuring that the supplier is going to follow through with everything that's needed, you're going to be happy with them. And in the supplier's perspective, if you have a quality system, it makes it really easy to do everything that your customer needs, and that helps improve that relationship. And over time, that's just going to really strengthen that relationship. So, whether you're trying to improve your relationships with suppliers, you're trying to improve your relationships with customers, or you're trying to improve your relationships with your employees who want to be able to use an easy system, a quality system is a great way to do it.
You touched on a lot there, and uncertain times when it comes to suppliers, it's probably more crucial now than ever to be, a trusted supplier with great quality control. And you noted the amount of effort and cost it relates to that company when you sit there and you say, okay, they've got to inspect heavily at the dock. I'm sure retention on some really good dock workers is going to be a lot higher for an easier role where their benefit is, doing value add to their company rather than tearing apart boxes and boxes of parts, reviewing for where, we possibly have problems. So it's interesting how a good supplier can also impact your employee retention, which we both know is some of the most expensive part of business right now in general, with people being bought out and just it's been a constant back and forth of who gets paid more. I mean, you're empowering the line worker, you're empowering your company. There's a lot to be said in that full circle approach.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, the easier that you can make things on your employees, the better the satisfaction is going to be, the better work they're going to do. Again, let's go back to it. That relates to customer satisfaction because your employees are doing better work.
You used a term a while back that I always like to bring up once in a while. It was regarding differentiating between you and your suppliers about being a vulture. Can you get in a little bit about that so we can let everybody know why it's important in industry?
Yeah, I mean, there's always vultures out there, right? But in times of economic uncertainty, I mean, if I just think back to when I've like my adult life, we start with like the dot com bust. You've got 9/11, you've got the Great Depression, you've got a recession post depression recovery, you've got COVID, you've got all these things happening. And so there's always this flux in the industry. So there's always going to be vultures out there who are looking to steal your employees, who are looking to steal your customers, and who are looking to get a larger share of your suppliers. Now, remember, your suppliers probably have only a limited number of lines they can run. And if it's not profitable and if it's not good for them to provide to you, they might provide that to someone else. Now you've got to find a new supplier, and that's a problem. So if you can get yourself into a position where you can be agile enough, you can be the vulture. You can go out there and find those good employees who are sick of working with bad systems. You can find those suppliers who are sick of working on these ultra thin margins because everything is being taken up by rework and things like that. You can kind of go out there and take those customers, those suppliers, those employees, and you can improve yourself. You don't want to get caught by vultures, and you don't, and really, you want to be that vulture. You want to go out there and get that because, you know, um, we all watch some kind of media here. We all consume some kind of media, and it just reminds me of the words of Littlefinger from Game of Thrones. Chaos is a ladder, right? And it is. It absolutely is. And you want to put yourself into a position where you can climb that ladder because there's always chaos. It doesn't matter. We're not going to spend 10 years of a perfect economy, perfect global relations, everything like that. There's always going to be some kind of chaos, and you want to climb that ladder.
I love the quote. It's always key to pulling relevant pop culture into a podcast. I think the one thing I'll ask on that is, I've got an example I can think of, but do you have any examples of people that have been able to take advantage of the chaos in their business, especially when they have a strong quality in customer supplier rating? Because for me, I know of an automotive one that you were pertinent in helping implement, and one of their biggest competitors lost out on an opportunity due to some quality issues, and because they were flexible and they had the right solution in mind, they picked up the gap fill, but they did it so well until the OEM's first choice was back up and running. They switched over the entire program to them by the end of the year. So even though when we talk about, I filled out an RFP, I'm only second, I'm not the primary, my parts, I'm limited
Mhm.
this year, I only do 20% of the expectation. Well, when you do the 20% well, if something happens to the primary, you don't have to change your pricing because you proved in that 20% your quality being higher. They didn't want to go through the headache for the small margins they were making. So I know
Yeah.
for me, it's a huge thing for having that capability to be there. And that's where I think you talked about, hey, when all of your ISO requirements and all your quality specs are perfect and now things are equal or even close to it, people are starting to realize close to it doesn't matter anymore. It's the
Yeah.
cost of quality is real.
Yeah, I mean, you think back on companies that have either gone out of favor or come back into favor. I mean, think about Kia, right? Early 2000s, what was Kia? It was the cheap car that you could buy that was probably bare bones, didn't really have any features, and you're probably going to have to get it repaired constantly, which is why they offered the 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty that no one else was offering at the time.
Correct.
Now you look at Kia and they've completely rebranded. They have significantly better quality. All the features in their vehicles look great. The cost of the vehicle is lower. I think I mentioned quality is higher, and that's changed significantly, and that's because of a big shift in the culture of the company. They've really modernized when it comes to software, when it comes to machines, and they've retained those great employees. And that's one of the things they've done really well is ensure that they get the good employees, they keep the good employees, and they keep the good suppliers. There's a lot of really great automotive suppliers that I've worked with throughout the years, and they're now supplying to Kia, and those are the ones that would normally be supplying to companies like BMW, Mercedes. You don't expect those kind of parts to be in a Kia, but that's had a big part of their transformation. That to me is an example that I think I'm comfortable saying the name of the company, which not don't always want to say that in these podcasts, but like I think I'm comfortable saying the name of them because I've seen that transformation in the time I've been in quality.
And it's amazing because it transcends not only auto, but we've seen it in food and beverage. There's some
Mhm.
major brands in food that have gone up and down over the years that are trending, whether it be from, pizza to restaurants, you name it, brand chains.
Yeah.
It matters, that perception and that go forward strategy. So, it's exciting to see. I think this is going to be the hot product topic for the year as companies look to make sure they're maintaining their quality standards. Reach out to strategic.com so we can look at and review what your challenges are regarding quality and supplier and see what we can do to help you. Because at the end of the day, like you said, there is not a best of breed, but there are a lot of options out there to help organizations find those challenges, dominate those challenges, and be competitive in the marketplace.
Mhm.
So, Dave, thank you for your time today. Appreciate the
Yeah.
conversation.
No problem. Thank you for having me.